So in the first stanza, Shelley has described the dual natures of the west wind. The west wind is a destroyer and at the same time a preserver. The west wind is a destroyer because it destroys the old, dead leaves of the trees. And at the same time, it's a preserver because it preserves seeds for the future. The seeds which are light and which can travel by air. These seeds of these light seeds are preserved by the west wind just below the surface of the earth. That is, while the seeds fall on the ground, the seeds are covered with sand. A layer of sand covers the seeds. And Shelley imagines that these seeds lie just below the surface of the earth like dead bodies. And they wait to hear the clarion from the spring season. That is, while after the winter, the spring season comes, these seeds germinate and fill the plain and the hill with flowers of different colors and fragrance. So in this way, west wind is not only a destroyer, it is also a preserver. Now, this dual nature of the west wind can metaphorically interpret Shelley's personality or Shelley's poetic imagination. Metaphorically, Shelley represents himself as a destroyer. He wants to destroy the corrupted institutions of the society, the institutions which are used to exploit the people, oppress the people, the institutions which work for humiliating humanity. Shelley wants to destroy all these institutions of the society. So Shelley is a destroyer. At the same time, Shelley is a preserver. He wants to preserve his hope for the future. He is a believer. He believes in regeneration. He believes in reformation. He believes that there will be a time when the society will be reformed and the people will be free from all sorts of injustice, exploitation, humiliation, and deprivation. This is Shelley's hope for the future, a brilliant future. And for that reason, we call Shelley a preserver or an optimist. Now, at the very outset, Shelley has called the west wind wild. So wild refers to free. The west wind is free. It is unbridled. West wind can never be controlled by any unjust force. West wind is irresistible. So west wind is called wild. So this wilderness or the wild nature of west wind is not mentioned here in negative sense. It is mentioned here in positive sense. The west wind is wild because it does not subjugate to any kind of injustice in the society. And west wind is personified here. O wild west wind, thou breath of autumn spring. The autumn is also personified here. The west wind is called the breath of autumn season. Thou from whose unseen presence the lips dead, that is the dead lips, for the sake of melody, for the sake of rhyme scheme. Shelley has just misplaced the adjective. The adjective has come after the noun. Thou from whose unseen presence the lips dead, that is the dead lips, because of the presence of the west wind, are driven like ghosts from an enchanter fleeing. Enchanter means the magician. As the magician's fleeing or spell drives away the ghosts, similarly, the west wind, which is also invisible, just like the spell of the magician, drives away the dead leaves of the tree. The dead leaves wither away because of the presence of the west wind. So west wind destroys the old leaves, the dead leaves. So whatever is old, whatever is paradoxical, whatever is fundamental, whatever is against progressive activities, progressive forces, Shelley wants to destroy. Shelley wants that all these stagnancy will be driven out of the society. And if this stagnancy is removed or driven out of the society, there will be dynamism in thoughts, in ideas, in imagination, in reformation, in reconstruction, regeneration. And Shelley, in the fourth line, has described different colors of the dead leaves: yellow and black and pale and hectic red. Pestilence stricken multitudes, that is the leaves, the dead leaves of the trees will be driven away in huge number. It seems a pandemic or an epidemic has taken place. And because of the pandemic, numberless lives or numberless people die. Numberless lives are taken away by the pandemic. Similarly, numberless lives are driven away with the presence of the west wind. So west wind is a force that bring about pandemic in nature. Not in negative sense, but in positive sense, because Shelley believes that death is essential for regeneration or rebirth. Death is essential. The old must take farewell. Otherwise, new will not come. So we must accommodate new. And for the accommodation of newness, the old or superannuation must be driven out of the society. If old becomes conservative, if old becomes stagnant, if old becomes fundamental, that very old is a kind of obstruction to the development of the society. So that very old or conservative rules, regulations, and disciplines should be destroyed. Destroyed not because of destruction, or not because of or not for death and pestilence, but for regeneration. So Shelley is a poet of regeneration also. Okay, rebirth. Who chariotest to their dark wintry bed? Just think of the imagery. Shelley is a great artist. He knows how to draw picture with the help of words. The west wind is depicted here as a powerful personality. It carries away the seeds and places those seeds just below the layer of sand or layer of earth for future. And these seeds lie there just like the corpse. or dead bodies. I am reciting the 7th line of this stanza. The winged seeds means the light seeds that can fly in the air. You need not understand the literal meaning, just literary meaning we have to imagine. So winged seeds means the light seeds that can float on air and travel from one place to another place. Where they lie cold and low, each like a corpse within its grave, until thine adieu, sister of the spring, shall blow. So these seeds lie under the layer of sand, just like the corpse. And while the spring season comes and blows its clarion, all the seeds wake up, germinate, and green plants fill the nature, and colorful flowers decorate the nature, and fragrance fills the air and hypnotizes the viewers. So in this way, we find the course of regeneration. That is, during winter season, all the trees look dead. But when the spring season comes, the seeds that lie under the ground germinate and fill the nature with colorful plants and flowers. Her clarion over the dreaming earth and field, driving sweet birds like flocks to feed in the air. So we find a parenthesis here. Parenthesis, an extraneous interpretation within brackets or within commas that we find very frequently used by Robert Browning. Robert Browning used parentheses very frequently in his poems, in his dramatic monologues. And this is one of the causes of his obscurity. And Shelley has used here a parenthesis. Parenthesis usually retards the flow of idea, thought in a poem. So while reciting parentheses, we have to be careful to understand the coherence of meaning and understand the flow of idea or thought in a poem. With living hues and odors, plain and hill, that is, green plants, colorful flowers, and fragrance also fill the plain and hill. That is, the whole nature is decorated with new plants and flowers of different colors and fragrance. Now the poet ends this stanza calling the west wind wild spirit. So this spirit is Shelley's own spirit, the spirit of revolution, the spirit of regeneration. Okay. Wild spirit, which art moving everywhere. So west wind is a spirit that moves everywhere. Actually, Shelley wants revolution in every place of the world. Shelley is not a poet of the English. He is a poet of the oppressed people. So wherever we find the oppressed people, Shelley is relevant there. And here lies Shelley's universality. As the west wind moves everywhere, Shelley's a spirit of revolution, Shelley's a spirit of regeneration, his spirit of humanity, Shelley's a spirit of democracy is universal. It is relevant in every corner of the world where we find injustice, where we find persecution, where we find humiliation of humanity. So Shelley is relevant. While the spirit which art moving everywhere, destroyer and preserver, here or here. So Shelley has employed antithetical idea at the end of the first stanza. He has called the West Wind a destroyer and preserver. Actually, Shelley himself is a destroyer and preserver. He's a destroyer of the old fundamental tyrannic rules and institutions of the society that bring about discrimination in the society. And he's a preserver of equality. He's a preserver of the spirit of brotherhood, solidarity, equilibrium, democracy. So Shelley, just under the disguise of the West Wind, represents himself as a destroyer and preserver. Actually, this is all about the first stanza of Shelley's Ode to the West Wind. Now, do you have any question?